And we continue at 1:07 in the afternoon. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show. Broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios. Mr. Randy Wanks, the sports desk in Culver City.
Well, John, we paid a lot of attention to the rise in the homeless numbers, up 10% in the city, 9% in the county. But another thing that came out of that study was at the same time there were thousands of empty shelter beds. Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, was asked on public radio if the reason for that is that the shelters have rules like you can't do drugs. And this is what she said.
I think it's a little bit of that. But remember now, you're sleeping in the shelter. So whatever you want to do, if it's drugs or alcohol or whatever, can be done before you go in.
So it's like the airport. If it's a short flight, make sure you drink all of your alcoholic beverages at the airport before you get on the plane because there's no service between here and Vegas.
You won't be able to shoot up in the shelter, so you might as well do it in both arms before you go in the shelter.
With that kind of attitude, she could be the next Secretary of Transportation.
If you're feeling down, if you're feeling blue, let's get help for you.
800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, one of the things that we learned from the pandemic and the subsequent shutdowns is this. You learned real fast if you're a good couch potato or a bad couch potato. Prior to the pandemic, if you wanted to be lazy, you could be lazy, and if you wanted to be active, you could be active. But when suddenly there's no golf, there's no gym, there's no restaurants, there's no bars, there's no tracks, there's no beach, there's nothing to do, and you're expected to stay home so you don't spread the virus to other people, people spent a lot of time on their couch doing Netflix and chill. For some people, it was a godsend. Because they weren't invited to parties, they weren't expected to show up to the office, they don't have to exercise. They could just live in their house and watch TV morning, noon, and night. For other people, it drove them absolutely crazy. Or I could borrow a term from Tom McClintock, I guess, if I wanted to.
You mean this one?
Tom, we love you. We've lived here all our lives, but this state has gone bat crazy, and we...
Exactly. I found out I'm an awful couch potato. I can't sit around doing nothing. It drove me crazy. It destroyed my mental health. It made it so that, I don't know, I just wanted to stop looking at the four walls in my house. I don't need that much stimulation, but I do need stimulation. There are people that need to go to very crowded nightclubs and bars and be around a bunch of people all at once. I don't need that. But going out to dinner with friends every so often and having a conversation with the bartender while I have my patty melt and scotch on the rocks is something that makes me happy. When suddenly every meal is something that you have to cook yourself and every ounce of entertainment is whatever it is that Netflix can provide, that just makes it so that you don't want to get out of bed in the morning. At least it did for me. Randy, you were also an awful couch potato.
As much as I pride myself on my laziness, not even being able to get out of the house for this 3-hour-a-day job, the couple of weeks in 2020 when we got furloughed here or there, I was a pain in the ass to be around. My wife said, you got to go. You got to go do something. You're driving me crazy.
Well, there is a whole different subset of people that exist in this country who, as it turns out, love doing nothing. And not only do they love doing nothing, they can't stop doing nothing. They're addicted. They like it. They love it. They want some more of it. And even though the pandemic is over, there are people who continue to stay inside their homes and watch reruns of Judge Judy 24/7 while they eat fast food.
They've run out of those, and now they're watching Judy Justice on Amazon Freevee.
All right, knock yourself out. But it's not a small group of people. Apparently, it's a large group of people. And it's not just people who might otherwise hang out around the house. We're not talking about retirees here. We're not talking about teenagers. We're talking about able-bodied adults. Record numbers of able-bodied adults are taking themselves out of the labor market so they can hang out at home and watch television.
And that means they're not even counted in the unemployment rate, because the unemployment rate only counts people actively seeking work that are on unemployment. If you're just not working entirely, you don't get counted.
That's right. And these people are perfectly content doing what they did during the pandemic forever. So when you hire a contractor to do something at your house and they complain about a labor shortage and blame the delays on that, or your car breaks down and you need a part and the people who deliver the parts can't staff their operation, or your flight gets canceled because there aren't enough flight attendants or pilots or gate agents or security personnel, this is why. A huge chunk of them never came back to work, and they're not coming back. For more on this, here's CBS News.
But we're going to begin this hour with a not-so-bravo topic. We're talking about jobs and a major hiring crisis. A problem, really, bigger and older than the Great Resignation you've heard so much about. It's a problem you're not going to find in the unemployment rate, which is, of course, at near record lows. And it's because a large number of American men in particular, men in their prime working years, are actually not working, and they're not even looking for work. The result...
Women have things to do.
That's right. Men, they like fast food more than women, so they're perfectly happy sitting at home eating Taco Bell.
The result is a bit of a mystery and also a major hole in the American economy.
It turns out dozens of real-life economists and other researchers have a possible explanation: a long-term decline in male labor force participation. Or as one think tank summarized it, men not at work.
That's not up to Mark Brown's level, but that's pretty good.
This is a men problem by and large, right?
Seems to be.
Look back to the 1950s, and 98% of men in their so-called prime working years had a job or were looking for one. That number has fallen ever since, to the point where today more than 7 million men have essentially dropped out of the workforce.
That's a lot of people on TikTok.
Think about this for a second. 7 million men between the ages of 25 and 54 choose not to work. And think about how cavalierly we throw around the phrase disability. I know people who are on disability who aren't disabled, but you get a doctor to write a note and you can sit at home and collect your Social Security or collect your pension early or whatever the case may be. People scam that all the time. So they're not even counting those people. We're just talking about people who can't get a note from their doctor saying they're disabled and still choose not to go to work.
That number has fallen ever since, to the point where today more than 7 million men have essentially dropped out of the workforce.
How many of them host their own podcast?
I think they're smoking pot and playing video games.
We've given a lot of people a lot of options. And incredibly, one of those options is do nothing. Do nothing.
Roe and I met at Empire Metal.
Oh, yeah, of course. Anytime you talk about jobs, they got to talk to Mike Rowe.
Mike Rowe is the go-to guy on jobs.
Roe and I met at Empire Metal, a fabrication and finishing shop in Queens, New York, and where, much like manufacturing shops nationwide, finding skilled workers like these is a growing challenge.
We have more jobs than we have people for, about 1.5 jobs for every one worker.
Jay Timmons, who leads the National Association of Manufacturers, describes all this as a profound problem for the companies he represents.
99.9% of them will say that their number one challenge right now is being able to fill those open jobs.
So you are here as a representative of more than 14,000 manufacturers in these United States. And the number one problem for 99 out of 100 of them is filling jobs.
Yeah.
Well, then how are we going to bring back manufacturing?
Consider this for a second. You have 7 million people who have just taken themselves out of the workforce. You have all of the people who are scamming disability and the ones who are legitimately disabled as well. And then you have our school systems, which completely fail in the big cities. And so you have a semi-literate population where no one can add, subtract, multiply, and divide. If you're an employer, given the fact that millions of people are disabled, millions of people choose not to work, and millions of people can perform less than a trained monkey, how do you staff your operation?
I never thought I'd be able to say that. But now it's kind of an all hands on deck. We've got to fill these jobs that are open.
And there are nearly 800,000 of those jobs open right now, according to the latest federal count, a number that surged in recent years as companies reinvest in American-made products, or try to anyway. And with manufacturing workers earning more than $30 an hour on average, Timmons says the problem is not pay.
$30 an hour? Sign me up.
That's pretty good.
But perception.
It used to be dirty, dark, and dangerous. Today it's very sleek, it's very technology-driven.
And that's what we saw when we visited Electrosoft, a company outside Philadelphia that makes circuit boards for everything from missiles to submarines.
So over there is the quality area where we do first piece article testing, final testing.
But CEO Carla Trotman says they could be doing more if only she had the workers to do it.
Think of the missiles we could make.
And again, think about the nature of the job. They had no problem filling the jobs of longshoremen when that job was so hard on your body it broke you down and you never saw the age of 60. They had no problem filling the coal miner jobs and other jobs that were very dangerous. And now that we've made these jobs safer, now that we've made these jobs easier on your body, now that we've made these jobs so that you can live to the ripe old age of whatever, no one wants to do it because they prefer to sit at home.
How many people work here right now?
30.
How many people do you wish worked here right now?
45.
So you got 15 people that you have jobs for,
Yes.
but you can't find them.
Cannot.
How much money in lost business is there in not being able to hire the people that you want?
Around $5 million in top line revenue.
$5 million.
Yeah.
That would be here, and that presumably you'd be paying taxes on.
Obviously,
And that would
yeah.
go into people's pockets and would be going out into the broader economy.
Yeah.
What is your theory about where those 15 people are right now?
I honestly have no idea where they are.
She suspects some people may be sitting out because of a recent change in the way many of us look at work.
I think it's fulfillment. I think it's culture. I think people really want to feel as though they are appreciated. I mean,
There's probably somebody out there that has actually watched every single streaming show on every single streaming service. That's 500 shows.
And they still don't want to show up to work.
I mean, Beyonce's song, she said, release your job. A lot of people release their jobs. They don't.
Wait, we're blaming Beyonce now?
I thought it was the country music song, Take This Job and Shove It.
That's right, Johnny Paycheck. He's to blame.
And they realize, I mean, it's an overall feeling of being fed up and being taken for granted.
And how do you get your money?
I'm telling you, there are so many ways to scam the government. Look at EDD. These people scammed EDD for so much money that they're probably still living off of it. You can scam disability. I got a situation going on now where a friend of mine, we believe, passed away, became an American expat, moved to a foreign country, and I thought that she was still alive. I was communicating with her, and apparently, according to other friends of hers that have reached out to me, they believe that she passed away a couple of years ago, and the person that I've been communicating with online is actually her caregiver who is impersonating her.
Oh, boy.
And she's doing that because she's cashing her CalPERS checks and her Social Security checks because she doesn't want the American government to know that our friend had died. So these other people deputized me as the one to go to CalPERS to tell them that they were being scammed. I was on the phone with CalPERS for like an hour, pressing 1 for English, 2 for this, 3 for that. You go through the whole tree. I never got to an actual person, and I eventually got to the point to where I said, screw it. If they make it this difficult to turn in obvious fraud, they deserve to have the money stolen. And I hung up the phone and moved on. But if it's that easy to scam the government, I bet you a lot of these people who aren't working have figured out a way to make the government subsidize their lifestyle.
You know, Johnny, I think at least once every 6 months we end up having a story in the local news of someone that's got a freezer geyser.
That's right.
But there's more. According to one economist, some non-working men face a skills mismatch. A third have criminal records, making them...
Oh, well, there you go.
That's why in the state of California, a law that just came into effect this week says that unless it's a really, 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 really violent crime, none of that will ever show up on your job application.
They're doing that so those people can fill these jobs.
But we have plenty of jobs for those people, too. It's called safety ambassadors.
A third have criminal records, making them ineligible for many jobs and making employers hesitant to hire them. And many rely on safety nets, such as disability. So you may wonder, what are these guys doing instead of work? Well, kind of what you might expect. Spending nearly 7 hours each weekday on average relaxing, playing games, and watching TV.
That's great. They're not even trying to hide the truth. I love it.
So how is it from where you're sitting, from your understanding?
I mean, when you're watching, you're sitting on the couch for that many hours a day, at what point do you have to order a scratch and stick on Amazon?
I exhausted so many shows on Netflix and Hulu during the shutdown, I started watching programs and subtitles.
So how is it from where you're sitting, from your understanding, that people can do nothing all day and still have enough money for a bag of chips?
Oh, well, it's almost as though some entity is paying them. It's almost as if somebody is not letting them fail. It's as if some giant parent somewhere has...
An uncle, maybe?
Could be a rich uncle, yes. Could be a very wealthy uncle.
Yes, the uncle's name is CalFresh.
The uncle's name is Sam.
Or it might come down to values. As many public schools have stopped offering shop class, many students have stopped even considering jobs like the ones Roe has spotlighted. Dirty or otherwise.
Hey, you know what? Plumbers make 6 figures. That's a damn good job.
Oh, my goodness. That puts them in what, the top 10%?
It goes back to the stigmas and stereotypes and myths and misperceptions that are keeping guidance counselors from talking about opportunities like this to the kids in their care. It's those things that are keeping parents from putting all the options on the table.
How big of an issue is it to have this many people sitting on the sideline?
It's only a matter of our national identity. I think it's a giant issue, and by the time we realize how big an issue it is, we're going to have a hard time turning the temperature down.
It's a fascinating story.
7 million men, and they're watching 7 additional hours
I was
of
going to
TV
say that.
and relaxing.
Yeah,
Hey, they're keeping you employed. Don't you complain, Mr. TV show.
Wait a minute. Did it say they're listening to the AM radio, too?
No, they're not doing that. We've done a research of the people that listen to this station, and you people work or you're retired and you used to work.
And they're watching 7 additional hours
I was
of
going to
TV
say that.
and relaxing.
Yeah,
per
that
day.
figure got me.
That's an FM crowd, Johnny.
Your old station.
That's right. If you listen to Ryan's Roses, chances are you're unemployable.
And they're watching 7 additional hours
I was
of
going
TV
to say that.
and relaxing.
Yeah,
per
that
day.
figure got me.
Wild.
Are the women in their lives or the partners in their lives working?
No. Not many women are going to put up with a bum who doesn't want to get a job.
I think they're all on government assistance.
Partners in their lives working?
So this is where it gets a little bit political. People on the right will say these guys are just living off government largesse. They're getting disability, they're benefiting from aid, and that's got to be reformed. And people on the left say they just need to be trained up. And yeah, in the meantime, they're living at home or they're depending on partners.
You mentioned this skills mismatch, and it just made me think, my grandfather was a machinist, which is a highly skilled job. Not anybody, you have to be trained to do that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know a lot of machinists now in 2023. And I wonder if people are being trained for that. And he mentions Mike.
So Mike Rowe has a foundation called Mike Rowe Works where he does.
Okay, I think the rest of the story is a plug.
So there you have it from CBS News. 7 million American men between the ages of 25 and 54 have voluntarily taken themselves out of the workforce. They don't want to work. They want to sit at home. According to the data, they're watching TV, they're hanging out, they're playing video games, they're doing nothing productive. So here's my question to you at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. During the pandemic, all of us found out if we were good couch potatoes or bad couch potatoes. If you like being like Peggy Bundy or you didn't like being like Peggy Bundy. If you had an opportunity, if you're able-bodied, so I'm not talking to people who are 95 and in a wheelchair. If you're able-bodied and of working age, could you ever envision yourself sitting at home on the couch watching TV as a vocation? That's why you wake up in the morning. That's what you do. You sit on the couch, you watch television, you play video games, and you eat fast food. If that was my day-to-day life, I would want to jump off a building. I could not do that and feel fulfilled. I could not do that and feel like I accomplished something. I would feel like I was wasting my life away, and depression would definitely hit. There is zero chance I could sit around and do nothing. Randy, how about you?
Well, I can do all that stuff, but I also have to work.
Okay. Now it's your opportunity. Could you sit around and do nothing if your bills got paid, you had cable, you had fast food, you had video games? Would you feel fulfilled? Would you feel happy? Maybe your kids are doing that. Maybe your spouse is doing that. We want to hear from you at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222, because 7 million people are doing that. We want your take. We want to hear your perspective. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. 800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. According to CBS News, 7 million able-bodied adults between the ages of 25 and 54, mostly men, have taken themselves out of the workforce. Could you do that and keep your sanity? It seems like there's a lot of us out there who enjoy sitting around doing nothing. I couldn't do it. Maybe you could. Let's go to Mick in Hollywood. Mick, you're on KABC. Hello.
Yeah, it's Nick, not Mick.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll buy a consonant.
Nick in Hollywood, you're on. Hello.
Hey, good to hear you back, John. Yeah, listen, I had a friend my age. I'm older, but I don't sound it, and I don't feel it, and I don't look it. But he drank himself to death, okay? Sitting around. He got used to it after the lockdown and just sat around, got depressed. Yeah, I found him on his floor 5 days after Thanksgiving last year, drunk, dead. And, that happens. Another guy close to my age, a director, sat around, he did the election thing first, watching the news, and then the COVID, and same thing, couch potato, dead, It's not healthy, and I couldn't do it. I'd have to break a leg to sit anywhere. I'm ADD, and I'm hyper, and I like to move. But, apparently there's a lot of people that enjoy it. I don't get it. Do you?
No, when I'm sick, and when you're sick, if you're going to get better, you have to pretty much shut things down. You have to drink lots of fluids, you have to sleep as many hours as possible, and you have to clock a lot of hours watching TV. And you're not going to get better unless you do that. After about 2 days of that, I'm getting ready to lose my mind. I couldn't imagine making that my lifestyle.
Yeah, and this working at home thing, I mean, come on. Look at what it's doing to the real estate downtown. Forget about the high-rise industry. I mean, it's crazy. This is the worst scam, or whatever you want to call it, New World Order, biochemical warfare from China that's ever been perpetrated on mankind. I think I think it's made a lot of people super rich, and it's really divided the masses. It's the worst thing ever. And I had COVID. I got over it in about 4 days.
All right. Well, thanks for the call, sir.
I didn't get vaccinated. FYI.
Okay. You got the fresh squeezed antibodies. Let's go to Lauren in Westminster. Lauren, you're on KABC. Hello.
Hi. My thought on all these people that are just flat out lazy and don't want to work is I contribute a lot of that to the Jerry Springer generation. He raised up a bunch of little dummies that have no ambitions in life, and they practically legalized drugs, so they'd rather just sit home, watch TV, like you said, and smoke weed or whatever.
It's shocking to me how many people I know who are successful people. They're educated. They own homes. They pay their taxes. They're smart people. They have something to say. They're fun to be around. And they have children who are now adults who grew up watching their parents go to work every day, and all they want to do, all their kids want to do, is sit around and smoke pot and play video games. And I don't understand how you could watch your parents go to work every day and not pick up any of that work ethic at all and just decide you're going to be a slug.
For me, my dad would make me go to work with him. If I wasn't in school, he'd make me go to work with him. And he taught me how to work at a young age.
Well, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Let's go to Andrew in Inglewood. Andrew, you're on KABC. Welcome.
How are you? I would think that Archie Bunker sang it best when we don't need a welfare state. This would create an entire generation of vegetables who expect to live on a welfare state where they don't have to do anything because there's going to be a government handout.
That's exactly right. And I'll tell you what else I think makes this possible. Having access to a million different channels and streaming services. If you just had channels 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13 and PBS, then eventually even the laziest among us would get bored enough to want to do something. But now that you have a million different options, and also I'll throw fast food in here too, because fast food is cheap, it's hot, it tastes fantastic, so it's possible for you to hang out at home, watch TV, and eat like a king and have it not cost a lot of money.
I do wonder what their net annual income is to afford a daily DoorDash or a Grubhub for everything, because they can't press pause. They can't stop their video game or get up and take a walk to the market.
Well, you get on that McDonald's app, they're practically giving the Big Macs away.
I haven't had McDonald's in over 25 years.
Wow.
You are a stronger man than I.
Watch McLibel. It might turn your stomach a little bit.
All right. Thank you for
Have
the
a good
call,
one, guys.
sir. I appreciate it. That guy has self-control.
No rewards points for Andrew.
7 million able-bodied adults have taken themselves out of the job market. They don't want to work. They want to hang out and watch TV. Could you do that, or would it drive you crazy? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Right now, we're taking your calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. 7 million able-bodied adults between the ages of 25 and 54 have willingly taken themselves out of the workforce. They don't want to work. They want to hang out at home and watch TV and eat fast food and smoke marijuana. Could you do this, or would it drive you crazy? Let's go to John in Santa Monica. John, you're on KABC. Hello.
Yeah, hi. Absolutely no way could I do that. I work 5 days a week so I could get that money. I'm retired, military, disabled, and I still had a full-time job.
Get that money!
That's right. I want to get that money, so I work and I collect my retirement.
Why do you think so many people feel comfortable living like this?
I have no idea. I don't understand. I work. I was one of those guys who was buying all those baseball cards online while I was staying at home working. I had to do something and spend my money.
Thank you for the call, John. Appreciate it. Let's go to Sunny in Oceanside. Sunny, you're on KABC.
Hi, guys. Hey, it's great. It's great to talk with you. What if this was all some sort of a strange social experiment to see how the masses are going to respond? What if it's like a dress rehearsal? You know what I mean?
To see how lazy they can make us become?
Right. I mean, if you give them if you give a set of circumstances, free checks, mandate, whatever, what are the masses going to do? Are they going to sit back and, watch video games? If you give them a little bit of money, are they going to keep just hanging? I mean, are you catching me, my drift?
Well, we know the number. It's 7 million people.
Yeah, man. It's a third of the country, right? Or less, I guess. So if you can get paid to sit around and do video games, if you're unfulfilled, what's to say that this isn't some sort of a dress rehearsal to see what the context will be when something more incredible comes along?
Right.
By another mandated vaccine, another blah, blah, blah. I guess I'm talking about the cabal, John, Randy. What do you think?
I think Coast to Coast comes on at 10 o'clock.
Okay, I've already got my dial on that, but yeah, okay. No,
okay.
But really, seriously.
All right.
Okay.
All right. I appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
That's a Nori P1. She listens to the replay at 3 a.m.
I think she started with Art Bell. What do we do? Do we go to the top or do we break here?
Let's keep going. Sure. Why not?
All right. It's a Friday. It's been a weird show. Why not keep going?
I love live radio.
Let's go to Mike in Los Angeles. Mike, you're on KABC. Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
Good. Yeah, I'd love to be a couch potato, but I work too much. I'm a machinist that makes as much as a plumber. I also worked through the pandemic. So, yeah, being a couch potato for a few hours, I think I enjoy that, but it's not for me.
Do you think that working all through the pandemic helped keep you mentally with it? So you had structure in your life, you had something to do, you felt productive, that sort of thing?
I still set my alarm every morning. I still go in and see all my colleagues. Yeah, it's great. I go into work. I cannot work from home.
As a machinist, absolutely not. Thank you so much for the call, sir. I appreciate it. Let's go to Mark in Nebraska, listening online. Mark, you're on KABC. Welcome.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I was going to say, ever since I was young, I would do work with my dad, or I had 2 jobs. And then I have hobbies where I like to work on motorcycles and cars. I like to just always use tools or use my hands, so I'm usually not resting too much. And then in the summertime when I was going to school, I would work on my stuff, restore old motorcycles. I think it's a new generation. I'm kind of like, I was born in the 70s, so these newer generation, they just play video games. They don't know how to use tools or use their hands with anything. So kind of some of it's like no skills. So they don't have anything else to do, I guess.
You're 100% right. And I think that there are a lot of people who we assume are on the spectrum in some capacity, and they have poor interpersonal skills. But instead of working on it and figuring out a way to work through it, they just use that as the excuse. And having a device in your pocket at all times where you can tune out everyone around you and you can look at your phone and you can check your emails and you can send text messages and you can play video games whenever you want has given so many people such awful social skills that they have a difficult time interacting with other adults. And I've noticed, particularly in younger men, the inability for them to even acknowledge people when they walk into a room. They're stuck on their phone. They don't know that you're in the room. And if you do that with a boss and the boss doesn't like it, the boss is going to react negatively to it. And if showing up to work gets you yelled at, or showing up to work gets you criticized, or showing up to work gets you fired, the younger generation isn't equipped to deal with that. They're the generation where everyone got a trophy, everyone was told that they were special, and when they show up and they're told that they're not that special and they're not that good at their job, they have a very hard time internalizing that.
I think you're right. I think it's like working with a bunch of Rain Man, like Rain Man. He didn't know what to do, no social skills. So
yeah. And the pandemic made it worse. Thank you for the call. Let's go to John in Long Beach. John, you're on KABC. Hello.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Yeah, I had my own business. I sold it last year. I started it when I was 23. I'll be 71 next week. And we always had trouble finding people to work. That people would, what do you mean I have to be here at 8 o'clock and I have to stay here till 4 or 5? And even finding skilled people for what I did was virtually impossible unless you train somebody. And by the time you train, they wouldn't stay around long enough to be trained. So, I don't know. I think the thing with the phones and the internet and all that, and, I've even had some close family members, I won't get into that, who have, gone that direction. And it's like you have no interpersonal skills with interacting with anybody if you have to interact with a screen. I had my own business, plus I had a part-time job because I wanted to have a part-time job, not because I needed it.
Well, you're 100% right. And it's one thing if you're competing with your competitors for the labor, and that's an easy fix. You can pay them more. You can give them better working conditions. You can make life easier on them that gives you a leg up on your competition. But if you're competing with the government where they don't have to have an alarm clock and they don't have to show up at all, and they can indulge themselves in all of their hobbies 24/7, 365, I don't know how you win, and that's a problem if we're trying to beat China. All right, we've got one more hour coming up on the John Phillips Show. It's Jimmy Buffett Friday, and boy, has it been a wild one. This is Talk Radio 790 KABC.
Go for